welcome to episode 4 of the Serial Sewist and Knitter. My name's Patricia. I live on Dharug Country in Sydney, Australia, and this is my little space on the internet where I talk about all my crafty goodness, which is mainly made up of sewing and knitting. There's a lot to catch you up on over the last month or since the last episode. I have been going to a few things. I've definitely acquired a few things. I have 2 finished objects to show you. So I'm very excited to get into it. As always, you can find links to my Instagram, Ko-fi, my shop Colourways Collective in the description below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. It means the world to me that you do that. It gives me a good indication that you are really enjoying the super niche content that I'm putting out into the interwebs. Anything I talk about today when it comes to designers, patterns, and acquisitions, I'll do my best to put them in the details of the description box below as well. So let's get started. I'm going to start off with finished objects and what I am wearing. So this is my finished Lento sweater in the colorway Joanna by La Bien-Aimée, using the Como base and the merino fingering. I've not taken this off. I did not block it before wearing it. I just started wearing it. I think I still have some ends that stick out of the sleeves, even though it's all woven in. I just haven't trimmed them short enough. I really love this, how it feels. It is incredibly warm and light, which is so perfect for the weather right now. It has been getting quite cold, and then we had some random days of heat, but it's just a really nice, a really lovely sweater. So much so that I do have a second one planned already, and I'm very excited to get through a few things so I can cast that on. So yes, this is my Lento sweater by Joanna Hietala. It was featured in Lento magazine. I've talked about it in previous episodes, so you can find all the details there as well. What can I say? I made it a little bit shorter, I think, than the pattern, although I'm not actually sure. I know that I usually default to making it a little bit longer than a crop so that it skims over the belt loops of a high-waisted pant, because that's how I like my sweaters to fit me. I am quite tall as well, and I like to be able to pair these things with not just high-waisted jeans, but also like high-waisted corporate pants or high-waisted skirt. So very, very, very happy with this finished object, and I love it so much. The second finished object, which you can see peeking here, is the lapoof. So if you follow me on Instagram, you would have seen my excitement that I already posted about this. So this is my finished lapoof, and I'm going to put it here so you can have a look. So you can see the fade. You can notice the fade change here a bit more, but I don't mind. It is very nice. It is heavy. I hadn't appreciated how heavy it can feel to be knitting with a superwash held double, and it's very different to this. Like, this does not feel heavy or drapey. This does feel a bit heavy. I don't think I made the sleeves as long as the pattern calls for. I think I made them a little bit shorter, but I did do the increases slightly different sequence to what the pattern calls for. It is a free pattern. It looks to be like a size inclusive pattern as well. The same with this one. It's a really nice knit. I really love the colors. I probably wish I had done more decreases around the neckline. So I decreased on every second or third stitch on the back of the neckline. I wish I'd done the same across the front so that it doesn't keep slipping off my shoulders. But that's okay. It's probably something that I'm more likely to wear at home or if I'm running around with errands, because it is much more of a casual wear jumper. But it is very nice. It is warm, like except for the massive, neckline, opening neckline, it is nice and warm. So I'm happy that I managed to do my first fade kind of jumper, and I like the colors that I chose, and I really, really love that I managed to get my hands on a lighter base dye lot of Monet by Hedgehog Fibers. I've got a little bit left over. I think I'm going to make them into some socks or something because it's really nice. If you can't, I'll actually try and point it out. So you can see in this bit up here, this is Shiver. And then here where you see like little flecks of fluoro pink, I'm going to cover my face so it focuses. So on the fluoro pink flecks, that is the Monet in the lighter base. And then as you get to the aqua, which is in the middle of the screen, that's also Monet, but it's been dyed on an aqua base or I guess an aqua base. So it was a really good way to use the same base but from different dye lots. So very, very pleased with having given this a go. May not be something that I wear all the time, but it's nonetheless very, very nice. The other thing that I've almost got finished, which is not knitting related, it's sewing related, is a skirt. So I have been sewing up the jupe. I think jupe means skirt in French, to be honest, but it's the agave skirt by Deer and Doe. I purchased this pattern a couple of years ago. It is a really nice, straightforward pattern that gives you a really polished looking skirt. It's asymmetrical. It wraps around in buttons at the front, and it's got instructions to make it a reversible version as well. I've just made like a plain black one, and I'm up to the point of finishing off the waistband and then invisible stitching the inside interface pieces that give it a bit of structure along the base. It is a really nice sewing pattern. It is beginner friendly. I think it says advanced beginner on here. Anyway, it's very nice. I've used just a black, it was like a cotton poplin, I guess you could say. So it can be a bit of a corporate skirt as well, or can dress it up. Hopefully we'll have that finished for the next episode so I can actually show you some photos and maybe pair it with a handmade knit top, which would be good. So that is it for my finished objects, which is I'm quite pleased with that. I don't think I have managed to knock off 2 sweaters like that before. This took me maybe 2.5 weeks. Like it flew off the needles. It feels really nice on the hands. The elasticity of the fiber is really friendly as well. Like even if you're knitting for prolonged periods, it's not super stiff. I've found like knitting with a brushed fleece, it has less elasticity, and so it's a bit stiff, so it can feel a bit harder on the hands. And I know only other fellow crafters will know what I'm talking about. So yeah, the proof I started probably back in January, and like I mentioned in the last episode, it just kind of sat there with maybe 10 centimeters to go on one of the sleeves for a while because I think I kind of fell out of love with it. It was the colors are beautiful, but I'm not a bright, eclectic maximalist person. So I will definitely lean into a bright color for a statement piece, but a bright gradient of sorts. I don't think I have anything in my wardrobe or gravitated towards that in ready to wear either. But anyway, it's done. I'm happy. I have an extra knit that I can throw on to run around and go do stuff. So that's also cool. I am going to have a sip of coffee. It is early on Sunday morning. I wanted to record today because I am extremely happy for many, many reasons. It's been a very insane week at work. I think I probably got to Friday hanging on by a thread because it was just so busy and people were unwell and we had so much going on in terms of things that needed to get done and everything was genuinely urgent. But that's okay. I'm recording this on Sunday. It is the morning after the Australian elections and the counts are coming in and there is a changing of the guard. And I think collectively and socially there has been a collective social consciousness that is breathing a sigh of relief. I think we're all just very nervous and anxious and worried because you see what are happening in other countries and in other democracies, and you start to ask yourself whether you are also going to follow suit in a negative way. So it is a happy day for many of us today. And I think the important thing is to be compassionate and gracious about it. And then hopefully with a bit of optimism, that's what I'm leaning on, optimism and hope for good, informed policy changes and a less feeling of hopelessness, I think is probably a good way of thinking about it, from my perspective anyway. So it is a good day and I cannot stop smiling. I am umming a lot. I didn't think I was going to get a little bit moved by that, but it is like a huge relief, I think. So this is the part where I talk about what's on my needles, stuff that's getting more of my attention and love at the moment, new things that I may have cast on since the last video. And I'm very pleased to report that my partner's vanilla raglan that I am making up in the brushed fleece is almost done with the body. Yeah, I think, wow, it's too big to show on the camera. Maybe over here. Here, maybe, yeah. Yeah, that's as good as you're going to get in terms of frame. I need to do 10 centimetres of ribbing just to get it to the right length because he's taller than me. He's quite tall. And it feels really nice and soft and squishy. And then we will be on Sleeve Island. Don't mind sleeves. She says after saying that she left Bulletproof unfinished with 10 centimetres on a calf. I don't mind sleeves. Yeah, I think I should be able to finish this within the next couple of weeks, I hope, or the next month. And again, I'm using Rowan brushed fleece. I just mentioned it can be a bit hard on the hands because it doesn't have the stretchy elasticity. It's 65% wool, 30% alpaca and 5% polyamide. So it is hopefully going to be durable and not peel. We'll see. But I'm very excited. I am a little bit worried about whether or not I will run out of yarn. I shouldn't, but that's the benefit of using a commercial yarn, I guess, is you can just buy more and the dye lots are pretty consistent. So that is my vanilla raglan for my partner. He's tried it on a couple of times, so I'm making sure it fits the torso length And then when I get started on the sleeves, we'll do the same for the sleeves. So it's something that he can enjoy wearing, and it fits him and it's comfy and it's warm. The next thing I have to show you that's on my needles is a new cast on. It is Petite Knits No Frills in the, I think I showed this in the last video. I can't remember. The Petite Knits No Frills using Fibre Smith, hand-dyed, it's like a brush suri alpaca silk with superwash merino in a fingering weight. I think you can see the colour a bit there. Yeah. I am 8 rows from sleeve separation on this. It's knitting up quite quickly. These are the first skeins of it. So it's actually doing quite well in terms of meterage. This is the brushed alpaca that I'm using for it. That's nice and soft and squishy. And the merino. And so it's got some variegation throughout it because it is hand-dyed yarn. And I think the fuzziness of the yarns held together help give it a really, I want to say rustic look, but I don't think that's what I mean. They help even it out. So I haven't been alternating skeins when it comes to the merino because I've been holding it with the brushed suri, so it kind of works out and evens it out a bit. But that's really nice to knit. I think it's almost exactly the same base as La Bien-Aimée. So it's really soft and it flies off the needles. I'm finding it really nice to knit with my Leica needles, the wooden driftwood ones that I showed in the last episode. It's just a really, really pleasant, it's a pleasant pattern. I think they have a lot of positive ease, so I've been able to size down quite a bit, which is really good too. So that is the new cast on that I think I mentioned last time. I'm pretty sure I did. And that's how far it's gotten so far. So I think I'll probably, hopefully, finish that pretty promptly. The only reason I would not is because of the test knit that I signed up for, which is the other thing that is currently on my needles. So I signed up for the Colibri by Joanna test knit, which is for this pretty sweater. So I have printed it in black and white. It is a window pane boxy fit sweater with, I think it's oversized. Yeah, it's like an oversized, like almost like a bell sleeve. I've purchased some stuff, so I will go into more detail about the acquisition yarns for the test knit in my acquisition segment. I have swatched. I'm just grabbing my swatch to show you. I got perfect gauge using the recommended yarn. You can see all the ends. It's really nice and soft and light. I've not used this before. It's the Ficolana. And the only reason I haven't gotten further on this test knit, I don't know if you can tell here, but I'm using this almost sand beigey base as the main colour. And then the contrasting stripe is meant to be a white, but I couldn't get my hands on a white, so I got my hands on a super light grey and this, which I hope is not blowing out too much. It's almost like a creamy white, like a natural undyed white. And so pairing the grey with the white, I thought it would actually warm it up a bit and make it brighter, but it's kind of like a cool grey and I don't like that. So I ordered some of the Aweta, which is the fingering weight, and it's natural white base, which is like a warmer white, almost like an off-white cream. I'm waiting for that to get here so that I can cast it on. We'll keep going actually, because I have cast on. And I'll show you. So I've done the first 9. It's very, very sad. The first 9 rows of the neckline, so it's knit top down, in the sand and light truffle colorway from Ficolana. And then hopefully I can get that done by the deadline. The deadline is, I believe, the 10th of June. So I'm really, really pushing my luck. If I can't get an extension, because I have let them know, if I can't get an extension, then I'll offer to pay for the pattern for not making the deadline, which I think is fair. So that is the newest cast on that's currently on my needles. I have 2 other things that I'm also going to talk about that are currently on my needles. They are the Gresham shawl, which I showed in the last episode. So it has gotten a little bit further. I am now up to I have the pattern here. I'm up to the middle cream segment of this. So you have the rainbow stripes on, I guess, one part that hangs down here, and then you have another set inverted over here. So the majority of the length that's in between those color sequences is in a cream color. So I have finished I forgot how pretty this is. I have finished the rainbow sequences, the retro rainbow as I call it. And now I'm up to this bit, which will be a significant amount of cream in a linen stitch, I believe I'm up to now. I'm very, very pleased with this. I need to knit on it a bit more. I've been really focused on my partner's raglan. And she's living in my beautiful Patil knits bag, which I love. And lastly, also on my needles, and these are just the things that I've been giving attention to. This is not by all means my entire whip pile. I think I have 2 other things that have turned into UFOs for the moment. But I have knit a couple of rows on this, so it counts as my on the needles for this episode. This is my curio sock using my pink tulip and minty julep colorways from my shop Colourways Collective. So they're limited edition colors that the local Aussie dyers have made for collection 1 of my online shop. So that's Minty Julep by Rainbow and Sprinkles. It's really nice. And this is Pink Tulip by VK Yarns. Michaela is really great in terms of high saturation colors. Rainbow and Sprinkles are really known for their pastels. And I think Minty Julep hasn't really gotten the love that it should have in terms of the shop collection. It's a really, really, really lovely pastel-y mint that fades into like a light peachy pink, but it's super subtle. So it's great for stuff like that where you're doing a contrast and you're having a color change. So you can see the main color is your like bright fuchsia, and then the lighter one's just a subtle variegation going through mint to peach, like a really nice neutral peach. So I have been knitting on that. I need to get it long enough to then put in the lifeline for the Afterthought heel. I pick it up when I don't feel like knitting a big project. And it is in a beautiful limited edition project bag that was made for my shop by Patil Knits. These are one-of-a-kind limited edition project bags. I say that because I'm calling this a conscious collab with Patil Knits because I thrifted the fabric and say put it together into this beautiful project bag. So I have 7. I think I have 7 left. So it was a small batch. It was a small run. I've got 2 caked up skeins in here along with the sock that I'm knitting. You definitely fit a third cake in here. So they're quite good in size. And they come with a cute little wristlet if you want to walk knit maybe, or just to make it easy to carry. So you can check it out in my shop if you're interested in a new project bag where we've repurposed some really lovely fabric. So that is all of my on the needles. It is a lot. My next segment's also going to be quite big. Well, I'm just looking at my notes. I have planned projects. I'm probably going to talk to planned projects before my acquisitions, I think. I'm just going to have a sip of my coffee. Hopefully you can't hear me drinking the coffee. I've moved the mic around. We shall see. It's not an art form, this. You figure it out as you go along. And then you just work on doing better. So I do have planned another Lento sweater. I did mention that at the beginning. It is very, very possible that I make more than another one. So I have past acquisitions that I've shown on here, which consist of the Wandering Flock mohair and fingering. And I usually try and buy a sweater's quantity worth, or roughly a sweater's quantity worth. I think the benefit that I have is that I don't like things with too much ease and I don't like them too long. So I can adapt a pattern to make it work based on an average estimate of what sweater quantity is for me and my frame. So I do definitely have another Lento sweater in the works. I already have the yarn, which I will talk about in the next segment. I also just decided on, jumped to almost the top of my queue, is the Louvre sweater by Petite Knits. It's been floating around, and I think it's got 20 centimeters ease, and it's almost like a high turtleneck. And balloon sleeves. We know I like balloon sleeves. That's okay. And it's a bit long. So I will probably end up modifying that to the length that I like. And I definitely want to make that. It's a really nice, cozy looking pattern. I'm really enjoying her patterns. I think they're learner friendly. And I think sometimes you can find European designers who build in a lot of assumptions in their pattern, which make it very difficult for a novice to follow along. I haven't found that with Petite Knits. But I could also just be coming from a place where I've knit a couple of sweaters, so I know roughly how to navigate the pattern and what is expected. So if you find that you've had a different experience, let me know. Put in the comments below, have you found that there are patterns that are better at explaining the instructions than others, or some that are built in with assumptions? I'd be really interested to hear what your thoughts are, because there have been patterns that I have cast on where I assumed, based on a previous pattern, that the beginning of the round was the centre back. And it wasn't until I realised how many mistakes were happening that it was actually that the beginning of the round was around here. I think it was the left shoulder. And so some are better than others at calling that out. And you don't realise that until you've learned how to read the beginning of a sweater pattern, a top-down sweater pattern. And you can kind of work out, oh, okay, the beginning of the round is with this raglan increase on this side, so I have to remember that, versus beginning of the round being in the middle of the center front, which I've never come across a pattern where that would be the case, but it might, or the center back. So I think the Lento was was one of the shoulders. I'm just feeling for a tail. No, might have been the centre back. Anyway, so I found petite knits patterns when I'm reading through them quite good, quite friendly in that regard. The other thing that I do have planned that I still haven't cast on yet, and I have some wool in stash that I could use, is another tulip sweater. I want to make the sleeve slightly longer on this one because I made them around this length. Oh, wait, yeah. I think you can see, yeah. So I made the tulip sweater sleeves around the same length. But the problem is that the wool that I used doesn't have a lot of, well, it has some stretch, and I did try block it so that the sleeves would get a bit of length as well, and I did go back and add length to the cuffs. I want a tulip where I guess the sleeves can kind of cover my fingers a bit in winter. And the other issue I have is that the yarn that I used for the tulip sweater is, like, after one wear was peeling like a mofo. Like, it was so surprising. And it is a wool linen blend. It was I think it was stolen stitches. It was stolen stitches. And so I was really surprised at like all the peeling that happened here after one wear. Surprised and disappointed. And I've shaved it. I gave it its first like proper wash a couple of weeks ago, and I have a shaving stone, so I used that to just peel away some of the stuff. I have an electric shaver as well, or depeeler. I might try that, but it was disappointing. Like, I've been wearing this one like almost, I don't want to say daily because it hasn't been daily, but pretty often. I've worn it at least 5 times, and only very like a small amount of peeling. Hardly any, if I'm honest, and especially none in the high friction areas, which is where I'm usually worried about it thinning. So that's why I have planned a second tulip sweater, and hopefully in a better yarn. I do have other things that I have like high level ideas about. I think the more I start to see, like, we just had Australian Fashion Week come through, so the more I start to see the new targeted ads and ready-to-wear collections make their way down the supply chain and into our social media feeds, I do start to have a bit of a think about if there's something that I could make that is similar to it, especially if it's something that is not seasonally trendy and can act as something that becomes a really good piece for my day-to-day wear or when I go into the office, which I haven't really done yet properly. I need to. I get messages from people asking when that's going to happen. So sorry. I just have I get booked into a lot of back-to-back meetings, and it's easier to manage that kind of schedule when you're at home, not having to deal with trying to find a quiet room, not having to deal with a lot of ambient noise and confidentiality as well. When you are talking about sensitive topics, I prefer to do that in a quiet room rather than in an open office area. So I completely sidetracked there, but my point was I'm seeing what other things I might make so that I can start to go into the office when I'm not booked into back-to-back meetings. So yeah, you can tell that I really haven't completely unwound from my past week at work. And I will only talk about my day job in very general terms. I am a pretty private person, so chances are I probably won't reveal more than what industry I'm in, and only if I'm asked, but I won't publicly reveal it or what I do. That's just because I don't want to. That's a boundary I've set. This is my maker life, and this is what this forum is for. But I may talk to you from time to time about like an interesting development course or an emotional intelligence book or something of that nature. something that's got more to do with the soft skills and navigating a corporate environment more than anything specific around what I do precisely. Yeah, so I wanted to be a bit more upfront about that boundary with you all. So now that finishes the first 3 segments of my podcast, which is the finished objects, on the needles, and planned projects. If you stuck around this far, thank you so much. I'm now going to move on to acquisitions. If that's not your jam, that is totally okay. You are more than welcome to depart. I will not take that personally. I completely understand that me fawning and fondling yarn in front of a camera for you to watch might not be interesting, and that's totally fine. For those who do like that, I include myself in that category. I'm going to talk through a little bit, and I say a little bit. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bundles in front of me making up acquisitions. They weren't, and yeah, I have a problem. It's okay. I've accepted that. So I will start with my overseas acquisitions and then move to my local acquisitions. And by overseas, I mean acquisitions that may have been manufactured overseas as well. So firstly, I have some more La Bien-Aimée. I love her. I love her wool. I love her patterns. I love her colours. Even though I'm someone who likes neutrals and colours that I can use diversely in my closet, all the stuff that she puts out, I really adore. Having said that, I did mention that I have another planned project for a Lento. I have acquired the quantity that I need of Kumo and of her fingering weight base in the Emmeline colourway. I don't know if this is going to show up on camera for you, but it's like a dark green, teal. There you go. It's focusing a bit better. It's like a dark green teal. So that's the fingering. This is the Kumo, which is that brushed silk suri alpaca. So hopefully it focuses. Are you focusing? Yes. Okay. So I'm just lifting it up into the corner to see if it focuses on that. It is really hard to capture the depth of the colour on camera because it is a greeny teal, almost like a super dark black petroleum. And so I did say the colourway Emmeline. I'm very excited because it's going to create this optical illusion almost of like a blacky teal, a blacky petroleum. I do like dark colours. So very, very happy with this. Separately, I also purchased 4 skeins of Kumo again. Yes, I love Kumo. In the colour Stone. So it is like a dark ashy grey. I am hoping to hold this with Space Junk by Skip Rope Yarn Co., who Cass dyed a whole bunch of it before she went on holidays for my shop. I may have shopped a few skeins for myself. I have 1 lonely skein left for anyone who's interested, but I'm hoping to hold it double with this so that you get that Space Junk, it's got like splashes of fluoro and bright colours, but this will soften how drastic that is. Probably into a sweater. Potentially another petite knits one. Just because I find the meterage of her sizing works out well to like 3 skeins of fingering and holding it with 3 or 4 skeins of a mohair or a brush suri alpaca. So that is my Labianame acquisitions. The other overseas acquisitions are the Ficolana. So I purchased, I believe it was sand and light truffle. So I think this is sand, Ficolana Arventa, which is fingering. And this is Tilia Ficolana, which is their mohair base. And I believe this is the light truffle colorway. So I'm holding these double, and it's creating that really lovely main color in this swatch. It's like a warmish beige, but not super warm. It is manufactured overseas, but I managed to find some from Yarn & Co., who are based in Melbourne, I think. I'll put a link to their shop below. And they were really good about trying to get it to me quickly to start the test knit. Like I said, the only issue was that this is too cool a grey. So I'll use this for socks because it's nice and squishy. But that was too cool to pair with this really nice, like warm white to pair with, you know, a warm beige. So Ficolana, if you haven't used it before, seems to be the go-to for everyone in Europe when it comes to a lot of knitting. So I wanted to try it, and I was happy to try it for a test knit and for a test knit for a pattern that I would wear. So it's 80% superwash. The Adventa, which is the fingering, is 80% superwash, 20% nylon. And the amount of colours that they have is insane. And the Ficolana is 70% kid mohair and 30% silk. I don't know what their ethical practices are around the silk, so I tend to assume that they're not great until I hear otherwise, until it's like dubbed piece silk. So if you are someone who is guided by and will choose a piece silk acquisition or piece silk manufacturer, I hear Knitting for Olive is probably the best one to go with. I'm working on finding a not overly priced piece silk, but also I've heard mixed reviews about the Knitting for Olive piece silk as well. So I'm not here to judge. I'm giving you information. You do with that what you like. You're guided by your own values and moral compass. And we're just here to talk about maker stuff. So by all means, do not think that I'm proclaiming or preaching anything to you. Purely sharing info. If someone has the answer to that though, like if they know about manufacturing processes for the silk component of Ficolana, please let me know in the comments below. That would be really helpful info to share. So that's it for the overseas acquisitions. Now, last weekend, we drove down to Canberra, which is the capital of Australia. It is a 2.5 to 3 hour drive from Sydney. And we went for the Wool Expo. So they held a Wool Expo where local mills, or local East Coast mills, and indie yarn dyers set up stalls to. It was the first time that it had come up since the pandemic started, which was great. And I hadn't heard of it before. I've only really become more actively curious about the maker community here since the pandemic started. I was a passive knitter before then. So they had yummy food, beautiful squishy yarn, beautiful yarn burritos, as I like to call them, and lots of magnificent colours and colourways and lots of beautiful new dyers. There was one called Dying Dreams, and she dyes her yarn with UV reactive colours, which is just amazing. I hadn't seen that before. I didn't acquire anything because it's not something that I would wear, but still absolutely stunning colours, and in pastels and then bright neons. And then I think she had a base that was like black with speckling of neons in it. Really, really cool. So I also met Orly from Olive Branch Yarns. She focuses on dyeing non-superwash yarns, which are locally sourced. Locally to her, I think she's sourcing them from South Australia. And they're beautiful, beautiful batches that she has dyed. And she donates a portion of her proceeds to a portion of her profits to Q Life, which is an organisation that helps provide support and advocate for queer rights, which is amazing. So I met Orly, who is lovely. I also met Claire from Fibre Arts Shed, also really lovely, friendly bunch. And I did meet a few others. I got to finally meet Marie from Obsession Yarns, and we've agreed that next time we will remember to grab a photo and also a coffee so we can talk a bit more. It was really busy on the Sunday because it was also run in parallel to the food market that happens at the old bus depot in Canberra. So you had one area that was covered in food, and that could have been like ready to eat food to condiments and deli stuff that you can take home. And then you had the other segment, which was all the wool and wool adjacent products as well. And it was a lot of fun. I think it was worth the drive. It was really cool to go down and be around other people who have an interest in the fibre arts and the fibre production process. I was really excited to pat an alpaca. They had a white fluffy alpaca, which I have named Elvis, but I'm pretty sure that's not his name or her name. And it was super soft and you just wanted to cuddle it, and super friendly. And yeah, so because we were surrounded by wool, you can kind of guess what happened. I did buy wool, but it was very good. And I did not impulse buy things that I knew I might end up having to destash. And I was very considered about the tones and the colours. And unfortunately, I did not take any footage of being down there. I did not take any photos. I took one photo of the drive down and I took a photo of my haul, and that was it. I focused on being present. I was with my family, and that was, it was a nice day out for us. So I wanted to keep it not, social media focused, I guess. So I purchased some stuff from Marie from Obsession Yarns. I purchased some items, or I acquired some items from Three Mums Yarns and also from Fibre Arts Shed. So the first one I'm going to show you is Marie's. So I purchased 3 skeins, which is probably sweater's quantity for me, of this beautiful colour pom-pom. It is a super, super, super bright, light baby pink. It's not even a baby pink. I would call this a neutral pink because it's almost white, and the camera's not blowing out the colour, which is great. I think you can see it a bit better. It's on her MCN base, which is merino nylon and cashmere. And I'm thinking about holding this double with brushed suri silk or a mohair. Potentially something like this to just make it a bit, I don't know if you would call that a bit more neutral, like if you're pairing it with a cream or a white, or even just an equally light pink that's more on the white side. So, excuse me. So we shall see, but I wanted neutrals and this was perfect. The second thing that I was actually going to buy more from her, but she did not have enough left in the colorway that was there. So she got really cleared out on the Saturday. Apparently Saturday was the day to go down. That was when all the yarnies were there. Excuse me, I have an itchy nose and I think it's a little wall in front of me. Anyway, so she had an icy lavender as well. But I think that was a one-off, unfortunately. But that's okay. Next, while I was chatting with Claire about how amazingly soft her undyed wool was, of course, I picked up some DK weight. This is 70% grey baby alpaca, 20% silk, and 10% cashmere. Like I said, it's a DK weight. I may need to get one more skein to have enough for sweaters quantity, but because it's undyed, it's not really an issue. But it is really nice and soft and squishy. And I mean, why wouldn't it be? It's alpaca, silk, and cashmere. This also means that it will have less memory than a merino. So if you are going to knit with an alpaca or something with a high alpaca content, it's best to use it for something that you are not building structure into, so that you don't get disappointed about the drape. So if you're thinking in terms of like a semi-structured sweater, probably rethink how high of an alpaca content you want. Otherwise, if you don't mind, just go for your life. But I was thinking this would make a really nice Louvre sweater, because it is an oversized balloon sleeve cozy jumper with a high like turtleneck. It's just something that you'd throw on that you want to have a bit of drape, because it is oversized, so it doesn't matter. So that's my thinking, that I might make a grey Louvre in it. The other that I was really, really happy to find is this. So this is charcoal by, on their Dream Base by 3 Mums Yarns. There's a cute little tag there. I got 3 skeins of this, which is roughly sweaters quantity for me. Their Dream Base is superwash merino, so 70% superwash merino, 20% silk, and 10% cashmere. And it is very, very, very lovely. I've been trying to find like a nice charcoal fingering weight to pair with a equally dark brush suri or mohair for quite some time. And they're not easy to find because it's not easy to evenly dye it, hand dye it. You can get manufactured or commercially dyed darker colours. My preference is to support small business where I can, and I thought this was nice, a nice way of doing that, and also getting something off my stash list. So those were the acquisitions from the wool show. They all have potential planned projects for them, but it can also change, and that's okay. That's part of the reason we knit, right? We can change stuff around to what we want. The last thing that I did acquire, which I forgot to mention in the overseas segment, it's okay, is I finally tracked down a copy of The Colours of Nature by Gould. And I believe, I'm just going to check so I don't misquote. I believe they are based, I want to say Norway, but I could be wrong. And it could be Danish. It is a really interesting read. I started flicking through it this week. It talks about natural dyeing and using botanicals, but because one of the authors is also has a history, like an archaeology and history background, they go through that piece as well, which I completely nerd out over. So if you are interested in history and archaeology and how that works with things like what plants were used to dye certain colours and at what time of year, try and track yourself down a copy of this in English. I got mine from La Bien-Aimée. She was the only stockist I found who shipped here with this for this book. I'm very keen to try naturally dyeing my own version of a lavender. I was reading that you can use like purple cabbage, you can use the leaves of purple Thai basil, and there are a few other plants and trees, unfortunately mostly from Europe in this book, but there are some species that have been introduced here which are widely available now as well, so particularly weeds and things like that. So I do want to give that a go. I have some bear yarn that I ordered as part of a dye kit a while ago to give it a try, and I am a bit more inclined to give botanical dyeing a try so that I don't have to be wearing a respirator and all that other fancy stuff for when you are dyeing with toxic fumes and chemicals. So that brings me to the end of my acquisition list, I think. There are definitely more things on their way. I don't know if you, like I, may have received the newsletter from Amy from La Bien-Aimée announcing her birthday sale where she has 20% off everything but the books. And I spent 2 days combing through that website and combing through the colours and combing through what could I acquire on sale for stash building versus what did I want just because it was pretty. And the cart that I started with when I first clicked into the website is not the cart that I ended up with. So I ended up being really, really mature and non-impulsive about the acquisitions. And I purchased one bundle of sweater quantity in a colour that the precise colour that I couldn't find anywhere else. So I try and work out if I can acquire that yarn or colourway locally. And if I can't, then I buy. So I did that, and I decided to also buy some accessories that she had on sale because that was when you're paying that shipping, that was going to be more worth it than trying to look for reasons to buy more mohair or more kumo if I don't have a planned project for it. So I did that. I also have some more Wandering Flock making its way to me after her last shop update. That's probably going to be the last time I buy from Geraldine because of the exchange rate at the moment. It's just absolutely killer for the Australian dollar. It's ridiculous. And it's a bit sad as well that that's the case, but it is what it is. And there are bigger problems to have than an exchange rate, to be quite honest with you. So those will probably be ready to show you by the next update. Hopefully they're here by then, as well as some unspun that I got from Wool and Twine, which is still making its way to me. Slowly but surely we'll get here, and it'll be the first time that I will have unspun, and it'll be really interesting to see how that knits. It's very hard to get here in Australia. It's very hard to find unspun discs or plates, and I don't think it's as big here. Like superwash is like insanely popular. It's very hard to find people who dye non-superwash. So that's why I was so excited to meet Audley from Olive Branch Yarns. And everyone seems to be really, really leaning into the superwash because it captures the colour a bit better and faster. That's been my understanding. And that's totally understandable from a business perspective. If you're running your own show and you need to get volume and release frequency right, then the time that it takes for a skein to absorb colour is something that you are going to factor into your production process, and that's not unreasonable. So with that said, I wanted to briefly touch on some cool life stuff. So I've mentioned the busy work week. I've mentioned the Canberra Wool Expo and the people that I met and the nice conversations that I had with a few of them. I also went to my first in-person knitting night, which was hosted by Three Cats Yarns. So Mel from Three Cats Yarns hosted a knit night, and it was so much fun. I wish I had the courage to do that sooner. I get really nervous and anxious around meeting new people. I hide it very well, but I get really anxious about it. I guess that's normal too, because we all worry about social acceptance and whatnot. It's a primal thing that comes up for us. So it was a lot of fun. I made a lot of friends. I hope I made a lot of friends. They were all really lovely and kind, and it was really good to connect with people in person who live in the same country and state as me, who, find joy in the fibre arts and in making things. So one of the women that was there was super kind and added me to a group chat on social media, and they had organised a virtual knit night for the Friday. So that was then my first virtual knit night as well. So I met a few more people who were locally based, and that was a lot of fun too. It was a really good way to spend a Friday evening just talking about yarn and knitting and anything knitting or maker adjacent as well. I think we talked a little bit about quilting. I was the evil angel on the shoulder cheering about, the La Bien-Aimée sale. And I think there was a moment where everyone was on their phone, like looking at all the yarn, and I was equally happy and felt a bit guilty for being a yarn burrito enabler. So very, very, very happy, and my heart is full after those two events. I will be going to the next knit night as well, and hosted by Mel from Three Cats Yarns. And I've also signed up to the Knitters Guild, so I think they go through an acceptance process at their monthly meeting, and once that's confirmed, you're in. And I think that's administrative. I hope so. Wouldn't that be embarrassing? And my local chapter here meets up on a day that I can attend, so I'm looking forward to that as well. So all around, a really, really good day. A good time. It's been a great time. Like running in parallel from chaotic work stuff to just things that fill my cup outside of work. And it's just overflowing right now with a lot of joy and creativity and warmth and kindness from different people. So I'm very happy about that. So I think that probably brings me to an organic end, as people may say. It is a bit of a long episode, and that's all right. I think there was a lot to get through, and because I am recording roughly once a month, it does mean that there is a lot to get through. So thank you for your patience as I talk through the different things that I've been making, dreaming of making, the different fibre acquisitions that will contribute to manifesting more things that I would like to make. And you can find me on Instagram, which I do update more often. So you might get previews to things like what I've finished or what I've acquired a bit sooner on there than you will through the podcast. And you can hit the like and subscribe so that you get a notification when my videos come up. And I hope to see you next time. So look after yourself, look after each other, and let me know in the comments below what patterns you found beginner friendly, what ones you didn't. Also keen to get an answer about the silk content of the ficolana, if anyone has any info on that as well. So thank you for watching, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your week and a lovely month, and I will catch you on the next episode.